Welcome to this lecture. In this section, we're going to look at what coaching is, identify some of the key principles that coaches hold as they carry out their workplace coaching, and break down some of the myths that people can often hold about coaching. Enjoy this section. Coaching has changed considerably over the years. From its origins in sport, it is more widely used in life and in the workplace to support the development of others' skills, attributes and behaviours. Now, whilst definitions do vary, it is commonly agreed that there are certain practices a coach uses that identifies it as a way of working. Now, you'll see from the definition that it is less about knowing everything and more about the skills of being able to elicit that information from another person. So I'd like to introduce you at the very beginning of this course to some coaching principles that are useful to keep in mind when carrying out your work. So let's get started by listing some of the basic principles the coach holds.
These are not stated in any particular order. Listening is more important than talking. What motivates people must be understood. Everyone is capable of achieving more. A person's past is not an indication of their future. People's beliefs about what is possible for themselves are their only limits. A coach must always provide full support. Coaches do not provide all the answers. Coaching does not include criticizing people. Coaching, wherever possible, should be completely confidential. And finally, some people's needs cannot be met by coaching, and a good coach will recognize when it's time to refer a client or a colleague on to a more appropriate person.
So in this section, we've made a basic introduction to coaching, and we've started to identify some of the main principles a coach holds while carrying out their practice. It's about recognising and using the fact that other people have problem-solving skills, they have had experiences in the past, they have beliefs, values, knowledge and opinions, which a coach aims to use from the other person, rather than sidestep them. The second we start to give somebody advice, we've quite literally ignored all of those positive traits, almost as if we were completely irrelevant and we just give them ours. So coaching aims to avoid this. It uses exploratory questions to give the other person space and time to think through the situation and use all of their knowledge, opinions, problem-solving skills to generate meaningful and intrinsically motivated plans that they feel committed to see through. So whilst a coachee may have come up with exactly the same decision as the coach would have given to them, the one distinguishing thing that makes the difference is that the coachee owns it. It's their decision. And that's an important factor that influences motivation and commitment and ultimately the achievement of those decisions. It is equally important to break down some of the myths and bust some of the misconceptions that people have about coaching, some of which you can now see on the screen. Getting to people to think it was their idea when in actual fact it was yours seems to be something that people can be quite proud of in the workplace. This is really nothing more than basic manipulation. If we're truly using coaching to gain all its benefits, manipulation does not have a place. Because coaching isn't about getting somebody else to think like you. It really is about getting the best from them. A common issue we find in one-day introductions to coaching or short courses is that people can walk away thinking that coaching is nothing more than putting the emphasis back onto the other person. Now, if you've ever been on the receiving end of that, well, what could you do about it statement, you'll know that it becomes very irritating. If overused, you just feel as if the other person is avoiding supporting you or is playing no real valuable part in the conversation. And again, this can be found in business where managers think they are coaching, when in actual fact they're just passing monkeys from one shoulder to another, as the saying goes, and avoiding them coming onto mine. Now, whilst the question itself may be valuable at some point in the conversation, it certainly isn't right at the very beginning. So essentially, coaching is not about advice. The coach doesn't have all the answers, and they don't set themselves up to be all-knowing. Their skills are in the ability to utilise the other person through effective questioning to identify what their possibilities and their options may be. And finally, in this section on myth busting, a common trap coaches can fall into is giving advice through their questions. As true coaching is completely non-leading, any question that introduces a thought that the coachee had not had for themselves is not considered to be a good coaching question. An example can be, who have you spoken to about this? Now, this shows how we can subtly introduce suggestions into the conversation through our questions. The question itself indicates that the other person would be advised to talk to somebody if they hadn't done so already. And an even more blatant example of introducing suggestions through questions is a question such as, have you considered trying? And then the coach offers the options that might be available. Just because this is a question doesn't stop it being a guided question that introduces the answer to the other person. Now, this is a subtlety that is often missed, and the subtlety that makes the difference between really good coaching and just a mild form or approach to it. And in this course, we want you to be really good coaches.
So the key messages that we've covered in this section are that a good coach uses exploratory questions to bring the best from the other person. They don't give direct advice, and they're careful that the questions they use do not introduce thoughts that were not there before. We'll see you in the next section.